Hey, greetings everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're going to continue on in our research tonight as it relates to a series of videos I did here in the past. A couple years ago, I did a series of 43 videos reconciling the master trust account. And you can find those on my El Perro page for regular videos. And there's a separate playlist for that. Reconciling the master trust account. And so before we get into it, I want to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's PayPal links down below for anybody that wants to share some love. And the StreamYard link is pinned for anybody that wants to join the chat, or join the panel here, excuse me. And so what we're talking about tonight is clickbait and narrowcasting. And when we think about clickbait and narrowcasting, if you look at the thumbnail, you'll see it's a lure. And that's basically what this whole platform is, and the socializing is about, is clickbaiting. And it seems a lot like fishing. And it is. It's fishing for men. It's fishing for people that are willing to place their person in surety. So the clickbaiting, from one perspective, is being able to put something out in a broad spectrum that covers a lot of different platforms that is specifically looking for certain attributes. In other words, say for instance, you start looking up advertisements for Victoria's Secrets online. The algorithm will pick up certain things because there are various elements that are placed in that lure that it's looking for. It's looking for a specific type of fish to go after this lure. This lure is attracting certain things. And so when we do those kind of things in our search engines, what we're doing is we're throwing out a lure. A lure is one of our intellectual thoughts that we're interested in. And so we search for it in a big lake. In order to catch that interest and pique it, we send out lures. When we're doing that, if we're aware of what we're actually looking for, we can narrow things down in our casting. And that's what narrowcasting is. It's the looking for specifics. So what I've got pulled up here tonight is a series of windows that I've gone through and lined up, hopefully in an order. There's a few of them, so it's going to be a while. So please, again, I remind everybody, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Get this information out there. And let's see here. We're going to start out with rectify. You hear me talking about correcting the record all the time. And so when it comes to the narrowcasting, that's what I'm thinking. I'm getting all the bullshit out of the way so I can fish the spot. I'm going to narrowcast. And this here says, as a verb, it's to cure, heal, remedy a bad or faulty condition, something that's in error. Set someone straight in conduct or behavior, correct an error. Set something straight or right. That's specific. Set something straight or right. We're going to see that here in a few. Old French from rectifier literally means to make straight or right. Remember that. From late Latin rectificare, make right, make straight. From Latin rectus, straight. from Proto-Indo-European root reg, move in a straight line, with derivatives meaning to direct in a straight line, plus combining form of facere, to make. And we've seen that before in one of our earlier etymologies. From Proto-Indo-European root DAT, to set, put. Sense of remove impurities from a distillate, related rectified, rectifying. So it's literally going through and setting about corrections. Okay. The next one, rectory. Now this is where I want to point out this part, because here we see ori, and that's in relations to oration, oral. In other words, the speaking of, as in voice. Rectory, as a noun, is a description of that voice, which is a benefice held by a rector, as in a director, as in directing, as we just saw. Parish, church, or parsonage, with all its rights and privileges. From French rectory, 14th century, or medieval Latin rectoria, from rector, see rector, in reference to his residence or house by 1849. Rector, as a surname, Anglo-Latin, ruler of a country or people. So as in director, there would be two rulers of a people. Therefore, there would be a sort of equality, such as a equal station in life. Since now obsolete from Latin rector, ruler, governor, director, guide. From rect, past participle, from stem of regere, to rule, guide. So we have the root of rect. Move in a straight line, which is where they get reg. This is where European gets reg, is they adopted this Latin root. So when we see regulations or register, it's a rule. Or a ruler, as a noun. So the next one. Remember I said that right, to make right? When you make a rectangle, you have a straight line, and as you're moving, you make it right. You move along and you make it right again. And you move along and you make it right again. These are known as right angles. Quadrilateral, rectangle. The rule of the angles. This is as to perspectives. Perspectives. Real quick here, I want to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's PayPal links below for anybody who wants to share some love. The panel link is there for anybody who wants to join the panel. And when we're talking about this and making the corrections, that's one of the things I was talking about with the master trust account, reconciling the master trust account. Again, we see the reckon, the rec. So it's reconciling means correcting in the account. Reconciling the master trust account. What is the master trust account? When you file to reconcile the master trust account, it's called reconciling the narrowcast master trust account. The narrowcast master trust account. And this is one of the ones you saw if you watched the videos I was telling you about, the reconciling the master trust account. 43 videos. It's in my El Perro videos, regular videos, not the lies. And it says reconciling master trust accounts at Postal One sites. Now, Postal One sites are online postal accounts. They have several different accounts you can have. I have mine set up as an enterprise payment systems account, wherein I received a MID and a CRID, a merchant ID number and a certified registration ID number. Effective immediately, Handbook F101, Field Accounting Procedures, is revised with a new procedure for reconciling master trust accounts for Postal One sites. Postal retail units, and this is why I say it's not United States, it's units. Each one of those houses is a unit. It has a postal unit attached to it by the enumeration. That are interfaced with Postal One are no longer required to reconcile master trust accounts once a month. Instead, these sites will receive a narrowcast master trust exception report when there's an out of balance status for 3 consecutive days between Postal One and the general ledger. So as long as that name of that person remains in that general ledger, it will post to the general ledger. That's saying it's being administrated as a probated estate. Once you correct those records and you establish your own foundation of your own living will and the living trust as expressed, then you no longer have that trust. That's a collapsing of that trust. It's a transfer of the titles. It's a transfer in remainder of all of the reversion of all of the remainders. Excuse me. It's a transfer in reversion of all of the remainders. So when you correct a record, anything that you're due back comes back to you. This is part of the justness of equity. The postmaster, unit manager, or designated employee must research and resolve. That's an obligation designated to the postmaster, unit manager, or designated employee. And they must research and resolve the out-of-balance master trust accounts. When you establish that enterprise payment system account as the master trust account for your own private trust, in the name of the trust, the Keith Orland Little FBU Trust, you have to express it as the trust. You have to use the word trust in it. That's expressing the trust. But you don't use the other name as it is. You create a new one by adding something onto it, the FBU, the Keith Orland Little FBU Trust. Now it's established as a trust account with connection with that general ledger. So anything that comes in that person's name that's not qualified, I don't have to return it to anybody except the postmaster. He's the judicial officer, and it's not a matter of appeal or addressing the public courts. It's a matter of equity. Equity imputes the trust, and the beneficiary is deemed to be the owner. I'm the owner. They ain't got nothing to do with it. I am the principal party in paramount interest. Upon the receipt of the Narrowcast Master Trust Exception Report, so as a customer, if I recognize something that is out of balance, it's my duty to make sure that that record reflects accurately. So I still have to maintain some kind of control over that person. This is why we go through and retire and resign that person and merge him under a new name. Now this master trust exception report and that trust that's associated with it is a trust name, and the legal representative is quite surprisingly L. Hotep II Peril. And he can now act and do all sorts of things with powers of attorney and all of that for Keith Little and any other of those derivatives. Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer. Pure and simple. Additionally, a copy of the report with an annotation of the actions taken to resolve the difference must be retained with PS Form 1412, daily financial report, as supporting documentation. Then it gives you here the rules and regulations they have to follow for their accounting. Double check the room. And I want to again remind everybody the link is down there if anybody wants to join the panel. It's pinned. And we're going to move on to the next one. And that shows you just the tie of the Postal Service as relates to the Master Trust account, the General Ledger. And of course, remember folks, under 5 CFR 575.102, it tells us the federal government means all entities of the government of the United States being a corporate entity, including the United States Postal Service, United States Postal Service being the registered agent, trustee, and the Postal Regulatory Commission. Now, the Postal Regulatory Commission is from the Postal Global Trust Services at the international level. It's the Admiralty branch, and the United States Postal Service is the maritime. Under that, it's the Postal Service that is tied to the General Ledger, not the administrative courts. How do we know this? Because it says the Judicial Officer Department is a neutral and independent forum within the United States Postal Service, comprising of the Judicial Officer, the Administrative Law Judge, and the Postal Service Board of Contract Appeals, telling us that everything under the administration of that Judicial Officer Department of the Postal Service is a contract. That's under their jurisdiction. It's not the sort of equality I'm looking for. I'm not looking to be having my estate administrated anymore through Social Security Administration and Selective Service. No longer accepting the term qualified because I'm not. I don't fulfill the qualifications. So the next one is the MicroStrategy Analytics and Mobility Narrowcast Server. Talking about the Global Postal Trust Services. They have a server wherein they keep all of those records, okay, for their service. Of all of the systems that they regulate with administration and guide. About MicroStrategy Narrowcast Server, overview of system administrator tasks, what's new in this guide, organization, da-da-da-da. And again, all you have to do is look this stuff up. I'm going to stop posting links and stuff like this to this kind of information so that people that are viewing it can get the point that I'm trying to make. Do not believe me. Do not believe your neighbor. Do not believe the government. Do not believe your mother, for crying out loud. Learn how to do your own research so you can learn to know. Then you can put it into practice and have the experience to become wise. Let's see what I thought here. I'm sure. MicroStrategy Narrowcast Server is an information delivery platform designed for proactive transmission of information in the form of personalized messages versus privatized. This is where I talk about I've got my own private hybrid email because I have my own site with its own domain extension as a .art, which is non-commercial, but in fact private, and it relates to the Treaty of Berne and the protection of literary and artistic works. Narrowcast server includes a delivery engine that can gather information from any source, such as MicroStrategy Intelligence Server, the web directly from databases, the web directly from databases, from flat files, and so on, through an open service provider interface. Interface being provided for the services that they are delivering. Okay? Personalize the information gathered based on the individual characteristics and preferences. So when they see the lure, does it have a characteristic of a long, low lip that'll cause it to deep dive, or has it got a short, flat lip that's kind of more straight that'll help ride it to the top surface? It's going to direct it to its particular type of fish, or a fish according to particular conditions. These are all things that are imperative in learning how to develop your own private situations. That's what I'm going to call them. Let's see here. Narrowcast server includes a subscription portal through which end users can specify their preferences and choose what types of information they would like to receive. So in all these social platforms, you can cut out the ads and stuff that you don't want. You are the end user. You just have to be able to show that. The first two users are users in contract, and you are a third party end user outside of the contract receiving the delivery of the benefit as the benefactor. Okay? The next one we're going to look at. What is a master trust? Very simply put, remember we saw that engine, delivery engine, and here we see what is a master trust. A master trust is an investment vehicle, and it has to have a delivery engine that collectively manages, and so collectively is not the rectory or rectification, it is a direction. It is a direction where two minds come to meet and agree in equity as a sort of equality. Manages pooled investments. Pooled investments. So the pooled investments upon the enumeration at birth through a state's vital statistics jurisdiction, wherein it creates multiple persons throughout many different venues: education, medical, education, private and public, legal debts, bank debts, asset debts, or whatever credit or debt ledgers you're dealing with under those probated administrative situations, saying that you're acting in person. It can refer to the main fund where assets are pooled and collectively managed in a master feeder structure. So as I've said, when there's the enumeration upon birth, what happens is they create a burial trust. See, which one are we on? So you guys can actually see this. This comes from Investopedia. A master trust is an investment vehicle that collectively manages pooled investments. It can refer to the main fund where assets are pooled and collectively managed in a master feeder structure, also called a hub and spoke structure. Sound like a wheel? What about a transportation hub. See, that term hub is important in all kinds of these motor or these engines and vehicles and the things that was just like the bank. We talk about rivers and their banks and their levees. This is the same kind of thing. We're talking about trust here, which is talking about hub and spoke and vehicles and all that. Employers can use a master trust structure for pooling investments in an employee benefit plan. What is Social Security? It's an employee benefit plan where mom goes to the hospital and under a spell of illness signs as an agent, noting that she's a resident at this address and she's residing outside of the state or outside of the United States that where she was born, and now is acting as a financial business operator, conducting the affairs of securitization. It's all false. You're not qualified. How a master trust works. A master trust is typically some type of pooled investment vehicle that allows for the management of funds contributed from multiple sources. Remember the graph I showed you, the state vital statistics jurisdiction graph, where it shows mom had a prenatal record. She entered into the hospital. As soon as she did, there was another obstetrician and a podiatrist assigned to her, and then the birth clerk entered a information that she signed as an informant, um, and then there is a signature of two trustees. That document proves that the two trustees signed a instrument in trust under Iowa code. An instrument means a signed instrument, and it's located in the trust law, meaning they're instrumentalizing the contract under trust law, and they're not giving the equal consideration to the informant as a benefit. They can't recognize her as a beneficiary. She entered into a court of law by signing corporate trust documents. Those are corporate trust documents. They're not real trust documents. You can only sign them in person. And real quick, the feeder funds. That's that burial trust established when you're born. They have to establish a fund large enough so that if you sojourn away from your local area somewhere and die abroad, they can pay for the fees to have you brought back to your homeland and buried according to your customs or traditions. A master trust is used as part of a comprehensive asset management scheme for a strategy, which is military, managed with a master feeder structure. Basically, it is a master fund that collectively invests for all the associated feeder funds. Now, in that, the state structure is that the states ceded their jurisdiction to the United States. They are the ones that have the master fund, the United States Treasury. In order for the states to get funding from the federal government, the situation is that scales are balanced in the equity for their trust, that the state must first bring in funds that then the federal government will then match. In a master feeder structure, assets are pooled, managed, and transacted from the master trust. Again, there was no one born in the United States. The trust was not created there. The master trust is actually in the state Social Security master file. It is an obligation to the United States but it was not created in the United States. Notice, and interestingly enough, they use BlackRock as an example here. For example, is an asset manager with an array of master feeder funds. Each of the funds has a master trust where the assets are managed collectively. The investment company's master trust LLC strategy uses a master feeder structure. The master trust LLC is the master fund, and its feeders funds include BIF Treasury Fund and BBIF Treasury Fund. Other examples of BlackRock hub and spoke funds can be found at BlackRock Master Portfolios. Managing and trading assets collectively from a master trust allows the company to keep fund operating costs down. What I want to ask everybody, in seeing this, do you see the structure of not keeping all of your eggs in one basket, but putting an egg or two in this basket and creating another basket and putting an egg or two in that basket? This is why I talk about the 18 channels and creating 18 different profiles as an author's guild to bring forth the various different eggs as assets, funding the major trust that I have to present in the world and the living being. Greetings, brother. How you doing today? Oh, do you hear me? Yana Guska, greetings.
Greetings, man. I hear me. Yeah, I can hear you.
Greetings. Awesome. I am well. I am well. It's awesome to see somebody on board. You got something for us, or you just going to hang back and listen? And hopefully you'll be able to bring some questions or something, brother. On board. You got something? Hopefully you'll be able to bring some questions or something, brother.
Yeah, I'm just hanging back, listening to what you got to say. It's kind of like I hear like a feedback, like it's hanging back, listening to what you like you're getting a feedback. Kind of like I hear like a feedback, like hanging back, listening.
Yeah, there's something to do with Chrome. We're gonna go ahead and mute you. If you got a question, feel free. We'll go ahead and try it then. Meantime, I'm going to continue on then, brother. And I do, again, want to thank everybody for your support. Thank you for joining me. We're going to continue on now again with the Master Trust here. Overall, Master Trusts provide for greater economies of scale. Greater economies of scale. So on the large collective scale, the best economy is for them to cast their lure in every other economy. On our local economy, it's best for that local economy to be able to be filled with their own lures of people that are casting things in. This is the agriculture. It all extends from the local community, and I'm hoping this is expressing that that's where your true power of trust begins, is interlocally with each other. The experience of knowing what your environment is and what's best used to be fisher of men, if you get me there. They allow a designated portfolio manager to manage the assets in a collective fund, keeping management costs down. Collectively pooling assets can also keep transaction costs low. Types of master trust. Unit investment trust. A unit investment trust may also be known as a type of master trust. Remember, we talked about that postal unit. The Postal Service is the one that has the real estate investment trust. These vehicles pool shareholder investments and typically include diversified holdings managed to a specific strategy. As a shareholder yourself, All of those instruments that come into the mail for you, to you, for medical, education, banking, courts, whatever it is, they're all being pooled into a master file. It's already done. It's a matter of tracing it back and letting them know that you are the master. You're the benefactor, and it needs to be corrected. So from now on, it can be routed so that what you put out comes back. And listen, guys, you got 3 days. That's what their law says. That sounds like a resurrection, in case you don't get me yet. A unit investment trust may have a specified duration with a predetermined maturity rate. So a predetermined maturity rate would be like your name has a predetermined maturity rate, depending on what kind of bonds are already invested under that name that you may not know about. There might be under a mortgage investment a 30-year bond out there. There might be under a jail sentence a 1-year bond, a 5-year bond, depending on the crime. There might be a 10, 20, or life bond. You know what I mean? Employee benefit plan, the SSA or SS5, presuming you to be a Medicare qualified government employee. Go have an assessment done. Tell them you want to sign up for disability, for mental impairments. Do the assessment and ask them for a file of that assessment. And on there somewhere you will find a acronym MQGE. Ask them what that MQGE stands for, and they'll tell you it's Medicare Qualified Government Employee. Now look it up under the Social Security's Programs Operations Manual System. Do your research, folks. It's there. As soon as you file that SS5, they're considering you a government employee, and you're qualified for Medicare. You're pre-qualified for Medicare because mom and dad filled out an SS form for you when you were born. An SS number application. Then you filled out the SS5, stepping forward as trustee, saying you're going to administer the estate in cooperation with the state laws, and didn't know it. You're not qualified to do so. You didn't take an oath of office to be able to perform the functions thereof of a public office. No one ever voted for you. You were never in any election. In fact, you signed it up for selection instead of election, and that's what the selective service is. You gave them your name. You registered their name as their property, and now they get to use it and select the service for you. They call this forum shopping for their venues. Quite a benefit for the employee, huh? An employee benefit plan may also choose to collectively manage assets for employees. Yep. An employer can establish a master trust for which they and their employees collectively contribute investments, where they and their employees collectively contribute investments. So, the Federal Insurance Contributions Act is an investment. Whether you were actually subject to it or not by qualification, you did invest, and therefore you do have investment interest. And that investment interest, again, is principal and not anything less. The portfolio manager manages the assets collectively in the master trust. Companies may also choose to pool assets with other companies in a master trust specified with clear objectives and segregated reporting. Now, again, if you remember in that graph that we looked over for the establishing of that vital statistics jurisdiction for the state, it showed you over there on the right-hand side all of those other branches that are involved in gathering and collecting the information in their narrowcasting and clickbaiting. Okay? Over 500 of them. And they are specified with clear objectives through segregated reporting. Like I said earlier, you're not going to get any ads from Victoria's Secrets and stuff like that for lingerie unless you put it in your research engine. Now that you put it in, it's going to come back. Be careful what you put in. It does come back. If you don't think it doesn't and you think you put something in there that has value and you haven't received that value back, figure out what the value is and fix it. Often employers use the master trust because it simplifies the process of managing employee benefits. I say, as the SSA process, telling everybody they're subject to filing that SS5 so they can get a job is overcomplicating it and stressing the budget, the system, the competencies, and everything. A personalized decision made easier. Financial advisors don't always look to create personal relationships. That's why it's important to find the right financial advisor. Data Line can help you connect with financial advisors who put you first. This is a narrowcasting. They're looking specifically for people that don't trust their financial advisors or are looking for a financial advisor. Be careful what you look for. If you're looking for a financial advisor, you better know what the term financial means. And we've done the etymology on that before too. Okay, and that's the end of that one. Let me check the room, see if there's anybody else that wants to come up. You got anything on that, Yanaguska, before we go to the next one? Gotcha, brother. We'll continue on then. In the meantime, again, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And remember, we talked about investment vehicles. What is an investment vehicle? Investment vehicle is a product used by investors to gain positive returns. That's all I'm going to go on this one because I want to make an important comment here. An investment vehicle is a product used by investors to gain positive returns. So this is a positive return. They got something they want, and it's going to return. That's the circulation. It's going to grow, meaning positive, gain positive returns. And they took something as investors, and they used it, and that was a product. What is a product? Like I said, when it comes to the address, you product. Your voice. That's a duct. It's an airway. It's a duct. It's an airway. You put something out for future use to go out and make a gain for a positive return. When you put that out as a product, it is not only a production, it is a factory. Again, you're putting facts out orally. It's factory. Okay? And you're stating your principal place of business is where you live. And that is where you manufacture everything. You're living in person. That is not a home. It is not a dwelling. It is not a domicile. It is not a abode. It is a temple. He is a respecter of no persons, and you're not supposed to allow persons in the temple. This is why you're not supposed to have that mailbox attached to your house. It's supposed to be on a post and enumerated. Your name should be separate. Anybody buying, selling, or ship to party is allowed to use a number in lieu of the name and address. Now, as the postmaster has record of the judicial elements, knowing the enumeration at birth, the social security number already, they ask it for that. They ask it when they give you that address change, right? You can give them a number in lieu of the name and address. So why do you need to fill out an address change? You just give the number to the changer of the address, the post office. He's the one that will change that address. I hope that makes sense. So the next one, this is February 11, 2020. Brian J. Wagner is President, National Association of Postal Supervisors, Certified Mail Tracking Number, da-da-da-da. So they sent it through their own system. As a matter of general interest, the Postal Service plans to revise Handbook F-101's Field Accounting Procedures, Chapters 1, 2, and 4. The purpose of the revisions is to remove and or update obsolete terminology. Obsolete terminology. Let me get this here. I forgot to put it on the screen share here. Obsolete terminology. See where it says that there? And that's what we're talking about, folks. Talking about correcting the record by obsolete terminology that needs to be removed. It's obsolete now because the person is retired and resigned. It's a salvation process where we're resurrecting the wrongdoer, the criminal, the defendant, the accused, and bringing him to a in no cent capacity. In no cent. That's zero value. It's not worth 1 cent. That's what innocent is. Give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give unto the Father which belongs unto the Father. What belongs to the Father is the spiritual creeds, and that is your merits. Your merits stand on your actions alone. I hope that makes sense. So let's get on to what is narrowcasting. This is Wikipedia. And when it comes to narrowcasting, rather than out there fishing on a pond and you want to narrow your casting perspective or whatever, this is narrowcasting is the dissemination of information to a specified audience or specialized audience. So when Victoria's Secret wants to send out their information, their specialized audience is those who are interested in their underwear or their wares or their products. If you've never shown interest, then they're not going to cast it to you. Whereas if you're a fisherman and you're out on the lake and you find out you run out of bait and you pick up a piece of gum that's nice and warm and sticky and gooey and malleable, you can stick it on a hook and see if somebody might take a bite. This is the clickbait. You're going to change up the tools that you use on a lake to find out what you're going to fish. unless you already have the experience and know what you're doing. On this metaverse, on this internet, I urge everyone, be very careful what you're doing. When it comes to these social profiles and stuff, they're using your data elements that you put out there. And they're going to cast things at you and tempt you. These are temptations based on their observations so they can catch you. It's a broad net, and you're already in it. You're already in it. Just a heeding of warning. So let's continue on. It says, rather than to the broader public at large. See, the net is already there. You're on the internet. This is the net. Now they're going to cast to certain things in that net according to what they're looking for. This is like going to the carnival and you have that duck pond with that little fishing pole with a magnet on it, and you get to pick and choose which duck you want to pull up, and then according to the number on the bottom, get your prize. Okay? It's the same thing. It's all a big old circus. It is the opposite of broadcasting. It is the opposite of broadcasting. So while you're out here broadcasting, as I am here now, this is a broadcast studio. This is a broadcast network. And you have to be studious, studying to shew thyself worthy and approved. You have to know the environment you're in. So when it comes to that the global postal trust services and the dissemination of information, this internet is part of that global postal trust service. And as we are operating on these .com sites, we are entrusted as trustees. And we must know this in order to be able to take the benefit as benefactors by being able to play the trustee position and knowing what we are truly investing in. Because that's the one that does the investing, is the trustee. The benefactor only uses the benefit. It's the trustee that's supposed to invest in the trust for the benefit of the beneficiary, and for that investment and his duties of doing so, he gets compensated, which is in like or an equal equality, a sort of equality. He too gets to benefit from the trust. He's not required just to perform. He gets benefits of the trust as well. So there is co-beneficiary of those trusts. So let's go back to it. Remember, it says history and terminology. Remember, we're talking about obsolete terminology. It may refer to advertising or programming. Advertising or programming, I say education as well. The teacher stands at the front of the class and she casts her words as so spelled broadly to a net defined as, say, 25 seats and desks, each one of them filled with one of the fish that she's luring into that military education. By a radio or podcast, newspaper, television, or increasingly in this digital age, via the internet. Via the internet. The term multicast is sometimes used interchangeably, although strictly speaking, this refers to the technology used, and narrowcasting to the business model. So me, as a business model, if I was acting in such a capacity, I could advertise to a certain platform, whereas in my private capacity, I use StreamYard, and I can broadcast to multiple channels on this platform, or I can even broadcast to multiple platforms such as MeWe, Facebook, and YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube, whatever it is. Now I can multicast. And in those multicasting, I can use clickbait terminology to narrow down who I cast my information to. Narrowcasting is sometimes aimed at paid subscribers, such as in the case of cable television. The evolution of narrowcasting came from broadcasting. Remember, TV used to sit down and say, "Thanks for listening to today's daily broadcasting. Our program schedule is ended," or something like that. In the early 20th century, Charles Herald designate radio transmissions meant for a single receiver, distinguished from broadcasting meant for a general audience. Merriam-Webster reports the first known use of the word in 1932. Broadcasting was revived in the context of subscription radio programs in the late 1940s, after which the term narrowcasting entered the common lexicon due to computer scientist and public broadcasting advocate J.C.R. Licklider, who in 1967 envisioned a multiplicity of television networks aimed at serving the needs of smaller, specialized audiences. Here I'd like to make it importantly known that you are a specialized audience. Again, I appreciate every last one of you. Thank you for your support. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Anybody that can help share some love through the PayPal links, please do so. Every little bit is counted and appreciated. It all helps. In the meantime, the link for the panel is pinned to the chat there, so anybody wants to join. And what do you think so far, Yanagouski? You got any thoughts on this yet?
Well, I'm just listening, man. But everything you're saying, I understand, and so at first I had it on the YouTube and the stream going, so I was getting a lot of feedback. So I figured it out. I just paused the YouTube, and then I came back here. Now it's just clear. Everything you were saying was like double, But now I figured it out. So, but yeah, I'm listening, man. It makes sense.
Yeah. I appreciate it, guys. And again, guys, that link is pinned down below for anybody that wants to join. And I am always open to other objective points of view, comments, complaints, concerns, whatever. So please feel free to join us. In the meantime, we're going to get back to this. As it says, like I said, that specialized audience. That's one of the things we're looking for when we use titles and stuff in our videos, is we're looking for specific audiences, and it's imperative to know what we're doing when we're putting those words out there. This is why I say it's you got to learn to coin your words or purse your lips. Here, stated Licklider, I should like to coin the term narrowcasting, using it to emphasize the rejection or dissolution of the constraints imposed by commitment to monolithic mass appeal broadcast approach. In other words, this goes to the public accommodation ideal that if you're going to offer a service, you have to offer it to everybody in the public. And this is false. We had we heard about a court case, most of us here a couple of years back during this pandemic thing, about not the pandemic thing, but the gay rights movement, transgender movement, and everything, with the baker that refused to provide public service to a gay couple. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Okay? It is a business. that they're running, and they do not have to give it to everybody. The simple basic thing that is, if you want to survive as a corporate entity, you have to be able to provide your product to a narrow portion of the public if you need to save that expense of making such a grand offer to everybody in public. This is why I say, and again, it's a reiteration of an old term all of us know. Word of mouth is the best advertisement. So as we continue on, the term multicast is sometimes used interchangeably, although strictly speaking, this refers to the technology used, and narrowcasting to the business model. So we have the technology used and the narrowcasting to the business model. Narrowcasting is sometimes aimed at paid subscribers, such as in the case of cable television. And as it says, that's said earlier, that comes in the form today modern technology brings us the internet. So in the internet, which is much more expansive than television, we have what is the narrowcast system. Now we know what narrowcast is. What is the narrowcast system? According to the most common definition, narrowcasting is a form of communication with digital screens. That's why it's computerized. It was a computer scientist that did this. That is characterized by a limited and selected audience. So the definition narrowcasting is specific to computerization, electronic communications. It can thus be viewed as the opposite of broadcasting, which usually aims for the widest possible audience. The next one, guess what, folks? In Windows, since we're talking about the internet and narrowcasting as part of our socializing, the default location is C forward slash program files parentheses lowercase x86 unparentheses / microstrategy / SDK / docs / development library .hotmail when installed on 64-bit Windows environments. What do you got, Windows 10? Or are you on an Android? Or excuse me, Apple? What is that? Anybody recognize that? That's Windows. What about Google? That's the entire internet cloud. These are the people that run this narrowcast system. And unless you know how to coin your words so that you can make sure that they come back to you with value and not be used against you by fact finders on Facebook or have your videos stricken by YouTube or whatever. Have your posts removed for threats or some kind of stupidity like that. That's why it's important to learn that language. The language is imperative, folks. Again, I urge you to go back to get a concise English handbook, college composition book, handbook, and learn that 1611 King James Bible, because that's what they use as the foundation for their supreme law of the land, the Constitution, which is a written document. So I hope everybody understands what that is and what I just went over tonight, because it's important to realize These trusts have to be corrected. This legal trust is for the person. Your trust is every word of God is pure, and it is a shield unto he who put their trust in God. This is your investment, saying that you should put your full faith in the full armor of God, correcting the words as you go. You got anything as we close out here, brother? So that's what I've got for today. And once again, I do want to remind everybody for I appreciate all of your support. What do you got, brother? You got to unmute.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just listening. I came in kind of late on the conversation, but yeah, as far as the words and the terms and the definitions and everything, I know they mainly use that against everyone. People don't know the true terms of words, so yeah, like that's the first time I heard. Okay, broadcasting. Yeah, I've been hearing that my whole life, but when you say narrowcasting and show, yeah, yeah, that's something that I haven't heard. So yeah, I appreciate the information. I've been following you for a pretty good while, but this is the first time I ever got on show. And hey, you spot on. Hey man, hey, much love, man. And we out here, man. A lot of people may not come through, but hey, we out here. Keep doing what you're doing, man. And hey, man, I'm here to support you or whatever. And we're on the same journey, man. So let's let's figure this thing out, man.
Absolute, absolute, absolute. Yes, thank you, brother. Yeah, because I hope everybody understands that's my whole thing of researching here is everything we post in every venue, and this comes from Jeremiah 51:31. One post
Yeah,
shall run to meet another post, messenger to messenger, doing
right,
unto the king of Babylon that the city is taken at the other end. We're done with the lies. We're not going to take it anymore.
right, right.
And granted, we fell into the trap. We were induced through propaganda, education, false teachings, and all this, and therefore we have to repent for our own mistakes in those um, in our babbling. We now have learned better. We will no longer use the Babylonian tongue.
That's
Period.
right. That's right.
So, in that, we're going to close out, folks. And remember, I love you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. So may God bless you and have a good night. Have a good
All
one,
right.
and we'll see you next time. Bye
Good
now.
one. All right.